r/ask Reddit. What's the most American thing ever that if explained to a non-American might just sound crazy? As a South African, what amazed me was the competitors call each other out in advertisements. I couldn't believe it at first, it seemed so unusual. Yes, this is so weird. I thought it was made illegal. I once saw the Sega Does What Nintendo thing and I was like, what? LOL, I got this many upvotes by what saying a catchy thing I saw once in an ad. That is a ridiculously good tagline. The first rule of advertising is, if you're on top, you don't acknowledge the competition's existence. But if you're not on top, you highlight your strengths differences from the top company. That's why you'll never see McDonald's talk about a competitor in their commercials. But Burger King and Wendy's do. When I was in Tennessee as an exchange student for a year, I was surprised by the team spirit of each high school. Like how there was a football game every Friday night and almost all of the school was there to cheer them on. That would never happen in my country. Spectating as a high school kid was mainly a way to socialize, meet up, and find out where the parties were, at least when I was in high school. Pre-cell phones. That's what we did. No one really watched the actual sport because it's rarely a quality game. It was a huge social event in my high school back in the 80s. Everyone sat together with their group of friends and eventually someone would say party at Joe's place. 1 hour. And suddenly 20 kids would walk out of the stadium. The parking lot was the place to be too. Lots of booze and smocking. So much that by the time I was a senior, there was a security guard roaming the parking lot during the game. Advertising prescription drugs to regular people on TV. Then the following advertisement is a law ad saying that if someone you know has died from that drug to call now for compensation. If you or a loved one have been affected by mesothelioma, you may be entitled to compensation. Hospitals buy ad space on billboards. I've never left the country, but we must be the only country that has hospitals advertising like Burger King. Yep, here, NZ. You just go to your nearest hospital. I'm from the NL and honestly I have many questions for the US. Most burning on though is why are your toilet stall doors so damn high above the ground? I don't know and I'm still not used to it. The worst is the size of the cracks between the door. The amount of times I've made eye contact with someone while sitting on the toilet is more than I'd like. At my work, not in the USBTW, because of how shiny the tiles are you can look under the gap and make eye contact with the other person taking a dump next to you via the reflection. It's weird. When purchasing an item, the listed price is actually not the amount you'll have to pay at checkout, it will be more. The best chicken joints in the hood usually have bulletproof glass. From Detroit, can confirm. Walmart, you can get a haircut, buy a gun and ammo with your groceries. You can get a haircut in a hypermarket? That actually sounds cool. Yup, my Walmart also has a bank and eyeglasses part. Nail salon too. While getting your car fixed. Nah, they just do tires and oil changes. They don't fix anything. Florida. We have an equivalent here in my country. Crete is Greece's Florida. It's both hot as shit and the people are nuts. One of my Canadian friend told me that, back in 2003, when we, France, refused to take part in the war against Iraq, some Congress cafeterias and some restaurant in the USA renamed French fries in Freedom Fries. I think it's the most passive-aggressive and American thing you could have done. Plus, fries come from Belgium, not France. That was a small but vocal group. Most of us thought they were idiots. Shooting a red sports car into space seemed like a pretty quintessentially American thing to do. I honestly couldn't believe people had to worry about calling an ambulance because of the fees. Like, WTF, imagine being seriously hurt or sick and hesitating to call an ambulance and having to think about how much it will cost. Can't imagine it. Imagine being diagnosed with cancer and calculating if it would be better for your spouse and kids if you just died. Time to break bad. The beginning of Breaking Bad in nearly any other country. Sir, I sadly have to inform you that you have cancer. We suggest you start the treatment as soon as possible to maximize the chance of success. Semicolon, damn that sucks. When can we start? Walter White is also a high school chemistry teacher, a job in my country that would have been well paying with great benefits. Play the national anthem at almost every event. I went to an American elementary school for 6 months back in 1980. I can still recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm from Belgium. Ha, it worked. Warehouse type grocery stores, Costco, Super Saver. My great uncle from Australia would always take photos and my Korean, non-Seoul friends thought this was crazy we'd have so much space for a grocery store. Costco is pretty great. I went to law school there. There is a place a short drive from my house that is a firearms military merchandise store in the front half of the building, and in the back half, just down a short hallway, is a barbecue restaurant. It's a magical place. Still weirded out about refills and sizes of drinks specific to soda, the low bar to get a driver's license. Traveling between major cities, the distances are insane, especially just feeling completely alone in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes it's just indescribably marvelous to be driving alone in the middle of nowhere. If my car is in fairly good condition and I am 75 miles from the nearest town, just pull over and stop to enjoy the solitude, even at night if it's clear, to finally be able to see not just the stars, but the Milky Way too. I'm totally Irish, meaning your great-great-grandfather's uncle once had a pint of Guinness. As an actual Irish person, check whose name if you don't believe me. I can tell you aren't, because you spelled Guinness wrong. Correct. I'm Welsh. Proof. I once read the Wikipedia page on that place called Land for Irish at Bajaligagoch or something. Recently found through DNA testing that my great-great-grandmother was black. I am very white. In other words, my great-great-grandfather was likely a slave rapist. Do you guys know what s'mores are? Edit. I get it. You've seen The Sandlot. You're calling me Smalls. I know the concept, but I never tried it. It sounds nice. I'm still shocked you'll pay for an ambulance ride. Like what the duck? I read somewhere that it's actually cheaper in some cases to call an Uber than an ambulance. Invention of the week. Ambuluber. They're 5 de Mayo celebrations. I have never met a Mexican who celebrates this holiday, lol. It's celebrated in Mexico, but most of the celebration happens in Puebla, since the battle that Cinco de Mayo commemorates happened there. IDK if that's fitting here, but I simply don't get why the grading system is A, B, C, D, F. What happened to E? It's stupid, but F stands for failed, so it's A, B, C, D failed. It's like it stops at D, although for my American schools D is failed also, so it's an extra stupid system. It's basically good, mostly good, average, terrible, and that's it. I remember explaining to an Italian friend that in the US we can vote and own a gun and fight in a war at 18 but can't buy a beer, and he was completely at a loss for words. That's a rather recent development. It used to be 18 was the drinking age up until 1986. Fraternities, sororities. Yes, so we just join brother/sisterhoods when we go off to college with secret rituals and traditions. Aerosol cheese. It's not actually aerosolized, it's more like a cheese sauce in a pressurized can. The +5 above speed limit. Usually it's +10 in ideal conditions. Cops never stop you for doing +7 or 8, unless, you know, they're being jerks that day. Anything +10 and it'll be a justifiable ticket. But if raining +5 is the limit, and if it's snowing, you're looking at -5 at least. From the perspective of a Swede, not including tax and price tag, shoes on inside, healthcare prices, gun laws. Shoes on inside is just wrong. I'm not talking about having guests over, the residents not taking them off. Mental. I was on a night train in Italy from Rome to Venice. I explained beef jerky and he asked me why we would do that to steak, and I was like, blame the cowboys. To preserve me during trips that lasted weeks. When I visited Texas I did these touristy things, learned about sales tax, thought the store owner was trying to rip me off, learned about tipping. Apparently I was a bad guy not to rip a waiter. My friend made me go back in and find him and tip him. I still don't know how to calculate a tip. Drove a Walmart fat people scooter and took a selfie. Went shooting at a survivalist gun range in the bush. Learned a lot about the Constitution there. Saw guns for sale in the department stores. You can buy alcohol pretty much anywhere, like in a petrol station or Taco Bell, but you can't drink it anywhere. Jaywalking laws are stupid. I tackled a robber in a mall, and everyone told me I shouldn't have gotten involved. The security guys that came late thought I was the robber because I had a backpack, but the first guys kept them straight. In St. Louis I got on a train. Then once it was moving noticed I was the only white guy in my carriage, and the next carriage was all white people. Some guys in my carriage were cool and we chatted a lot, but one guy just stared at me with the stink eye the whole ride. I got lost in Texas and asked some guy for directions, but he wouldn't say a word. Another guy told me he was a gang member and I was in the wrong part of town and should leave quickly. I ate giant plates of meat for 15% the price in Australia. I saw Denny's Baconorama, 15-course bacon-based meal, including dessert and smoothies. The bacon was deep fried. Row. I am a UK citizen, and I find it strange and confusing the different levels of law enforcement officers there are in the states, and what they're allowed to do while in pursuit of a criminal. For instance, if someone crosses a state line, the criminal can't be arrested if his offense was in the other state. Well, that's how it seems when I watch American films, TV shows. That isn't really true. If the police are pursuing a suspect in something like a vehicle chase, they will absolutely follow them across state lines, or the other state will take over. Assuming they capture the criminal, they would just send them back to the previous state to face charges, probably with charges of their own on top of that within their own state. I saw on a post a while ago that some people in Europe thought the big yellow school buses were our folklore and not real, only in the shows and movies. Sorry kiddo. Run down. Barely functional yellow death traps. Public transportation is the standard round these parts. As a French, I'd say the president swearing on the Bible. I thought you guys were a secular country? I believe you can choose whichever book you want to swear in on. There are lower level politicians who take those oaths using different texts. We've just had mostly Christian presidents. I always wondered why in the US it's obligatory to tip people like you already got your meal in the restaurant, for example, and you get the check. You just leave the amount in the check and leave the place. What can they do to stop you from doing that? You already got what you requested, right? Is it a moral thing? Or you will be blacklisted or something like that. At some points in history, restaurants couldn't pay their workers enough and asked the customers for help. They abused this by not paying their workers enough even when the crisis was over. And now here we are with staff not earning enough and bosses placing that responsibility on the customer. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.